Spooky. Creepy sound effects.
I like how you probably could just cut that sound in with like the real effect, but instead, we make our own sounds here.
We're nothing if not cheap.
So this is our first Bored and Annoyed reviews in a while, correct?
Yeah, yes, and it's also a special Halloween episode.
Yeah, perfect. So we had the opportunity, thanks to Fandango, to go see the Stephen King adaptation, Dr. Sleep.
Dr. Sleep, not Dr. Slump.
So we will be doing a spoiler-free review of this, but if you've seen any of the ads, you know that this is a sequel, sort of, to The Shining.
Yes.
And yeah, what'd you think? I mean, I'm the resident shill of the Stephen King stuff around here, I guess, but you're a Stephen King fan. What'd you think of the movie?
I truly dug the shit out of it. This is one of the better theater experiences I've had all year.
Really?
Yeah, I would probably put it in my top 10.
Wow.
I really enjoyed the hell out of this movie.
High praise.
Great acting. Exactly what you want out of a sequel, which is something different.
Yes.
Not a rehash.
Sort of.
There's some
fan service.
There's a little bit of Force Awakens in this.
Yes.
But not a ton. And I like that.
No, and at least they tried to like thematically cleverly put it in there for a reason, I guess, you know.
There is one plot contrivance, which
we'll get to next week.
Yeah, we'll get it to. This is all spoiler free for everybody who's listening. That bothered me a little bit. But other than that, I had a grin on my face for most of the movie.
Yeah, it's got a really good cast, I would say, like the main three characters.
Yes.
A couple good supporting characters as well.
Yep.
The bad guy in this, the bad quote unquote guy, I guess it's the bad gal, is delightful. I mean, she is fucking awesome. I've read the book and I was really excited to see her as a character. Because she is an important part of the book and they followed her throughout the book. Yes. It wasn't just, and in the movie, they did the same thing. She was treated as another character who is a main character. We get to know her motivation. There's some really good lore given, I would say, about who those people are and why they do what they do. It wasn't Kubrick-esque. It was a very Mike Flanagan thing. If you've seen, Gerald's Game or The Haunting of Hill House, it's his totally through and through, I would say.
He had certain shots, and I feel like depending on locations or depending on time period, he tried to mimic a little bit.
Sure. But he knows what he is.
He knows who he is.
And he's not trying to make a movie like The Shining. It's a totally different
different movie.
Right.
Because, The Shining is an isolated location movie.
Sure.
Outside of the very beginning, it takes place in one location.
Yep. And I would say that he's trying to make more of and this is what he does clearly in the movies we've seen of his. They're very deep character study.
Yes.
Stories.
Yes.
Whereas The Shining is different. The Shining is more of a interesting, weird, artsy almost,
He has also, I would say, like The Haunting of Hill House.
Yes.
Does not have an ending that you expect. And I would say that this does not quite have an ending that you expect insofar as maybe the tone that they strike at the very end.
Sure.
And I don't think it's bad.
No, I thought the ending was pretty good. I think the ending improved on the book, I would say.
Oh, okay.
Only because when I read the book at the end, I was kind of like,
okay.
Because Stephen King, if there's one thing he sucks at, it's endings. I mean, there was even a little bit of self-deprecation in it, too, just by the fact that everybody thinks that Bill's endings suck. That was
right.
He can't stick the landing. That's
right.
I thought, by the way, I think this was vastly better than it, too.
I don't think it's even close.
Yeah, I think up until a certain point in this movie, I would have maybe liked it as much or more than the first maybe. And then it kind of makes a little bit of a turn, and it doesn't make me like dislike it.
Right.
But the first 2/3 or 75% of this movie is fucking great, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah, there were moments where I was like, okay, so we're in Act 2. Oh, boom, new location, Act 3, very standard stuff,
Yep.
Didn't hate it so much because when you get to certain locations in this movie, if you're a fan of The Shining, there is fan service, but it's hard not to smile and enjoy it because you understand that reference, but it's different and it's been changed and altered based on time, but also on Dan's character, or Danny.
And I thought his character was awesome.
Yes.
And it was weird because it's not like he was given that much to do. He's kind of just there to help another character through the plot.
It's like our boy George says, they don't repeat, but they rhyme. It's like poetry.
Yeah, I thought it was. I mean, they nailed. One thing I thought when I read the two books was that The Shining. I mean, they're both. I mean, I'm not gonna. I don't think this is a spoiler. Fuck it. They're both kind of about alcoholism.
Yeah.
But they both take it in different, like they're two different characters that handle it in different ways.
Yes.
And I thought that was very well done.
Yeah. And they even get into the ideology of the two characters in this and how one handles it and one doesn't, right, which is nice. And they do it not just in like one little scene, like it's kind of seen throughout, and they bring it up a couple times, which I like. The female antagonist,
yes,
is amazing. There are certain scenes where there were shots in this movie that were not in the trailers, because I think they would be considered spoilers. They might even be too far out there for what people would expect from it.
Right.
And I thought they were magnificent shots.
Yeah.
I was kind of blown away. I was not expecting it.
There was one scene involving her in particular that I was like, that was fucking fantastic.
Yes. Yeah. I was like, what is this, Doctor Strange?
Yeah, right. It was great.
No, it's Dr. Sleep. No, it was great.
Oh, yeah, crossover?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind.
And the whole, the title of the movie, why it's the title of the movie, that stuff was great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. This is kind of tough to talk about because it's like, what is a spoiler?
Right.
So I don't know how much more we have to say, except for if you're a fan of Stephen King or just general like mainstream horror, like this is a good mainstream horror movie. We've been talking a lot about these weird, like
it is mainstream.
Yeah.
I don't feel like it's horror though. There is one scene in particular that is horrifying.
Sure, I think it's horror,
but it felt more suspense to me.
It's horror though.
I guess.
Yeah, it goes in the horror category.
I keep thinking of like horror is supposed to scare me. I'm still in that mind frame.
It's so I got so much joy out of the bad guys in this. Like it's so crazy. He is Steve, and I do want to talk about this. This is one thing that I thought of, and I mentioned it before we started recording here, but there's always that thing when they make a sequel and it's been like 20, 30 years.
Yes.
And you're always just like, oh Jesus, it's been too long, right?
Right.
So Stephen King wrote this well after. I mean, this was 2010-ish, I want to say. He wrote this book. So The Shining came out 40 years,
right?
And he's smart enough to understand. And by the way, take a note. Anyone who's listening, who's writing a sequel right now, a sequel can be a sequel, and it can be an entirely different fucking thing.
Yes.
And that's how you do it, because you're right. It does everything that a sequel should do. The lore is intact.
Yes.
And we're learning a little bit more about it.
That's, you have to look at it like it's all about world building. It's all about world building. If you're not learning anything new about characters or the world,
right,
you just stop losing interest.
Yeah, it's true.
So, they deepen it without giving you like a definitive, like, this is what The Shining is, and this is why it exists. They give you
that would ruin it, right?
I mean, there's the scientific part of all of us that I think would be like, okay, how exactly does this work? How can I get this?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Yeah,
but you're right. From a story perspective, it does kind of ruin it. It takes the mysticism away.
I do want to give props to Mike Flanagan too, because the book of The Shining and the movie of The Shining are two entirely different things.
Sure.
I can see why Stephen King really likes this, because this feels more like the tone of the novel The Shining and Dr. Sleep, in that it's not so cold. I guess, there's nothing warm in The Shining, the movie. It is
there are genuine like moments of like, oh, that is just a sweet little moment.
Exactly.
Which makes it feel a little bit more like real life that most of us experience.
And the fact that he had to, because they also have entirely different things that happen in them.
Sure.
So like at the end of The Shining, the book, something happens and you can't make the sequel. You can't make a Dr. Sleep movie without drastically fucking with the plot and locations.
Sure.
And the fact that he was able to seamlessly like keep that Dr. Sleep tone and the themes and everything intact while still having it work as a film sequel, because it works completely as a sequel to the movie.
Yes.
I was impressed. Might be one of my favorite Stephen King movies.
I think it's up there.
It was really good, man.
It was really, really good. I don't think we've even given grades because we've just been gushing over it.
Well, we just saw it.
It's still kind of processing it.
A-, B+ at the lowest?
I would say, it's right around that B+, A- range. I think it's B+ because of the contrivance of one thing where I'm like, you really didn't have a good answer for this.
And I feel like I'm going to have to really think about it and see it again, because maybe there's something in there that makes sense.
Right. I probably will see this again.
It was fucking great. I loved it. I had I was giddy watching it because, especially if you've not to be the asshole that keeps bringing up reading
if you've read the books.
But if you've read the books, if you've read a book of any movie, right?
Yes.
You go in and you're excited to see the movie, but it's always like there's like an apprehension about it because they're going to fuck shit up.
Where do they nail it? What are they putting in?
And it's like there were parts of this that are ripped straight from the book, and they're done like, because it's hard when you see it. Sometimes it doesn't match how you imagined it.
Sure.
But they fucking nailed this movie for the most part. They fucking nailed it.
I had that with like the first time I saw Lord of the Rings. I was like, well, that's not how I pictured that hill or this scene. But also you're like, but you fucking nailed the tone and you nailed the characters. And I do look at like Dan, and I love his arc so much. And I sort of love where he's at even before, like, okay.
When the movie starts, it's great.
It's one of those things where like, okay, what you do is like you give your character like a ghost, like the thing that's driving them from their past, and they have to deal with it. But the fact is like sometimes in movies it feels so forced. It's like, how could this person possibly be living their life like this? It doesn't make any sense.
Sure.
Dan is like a real person in that he's found a way to make a not decent, but like actually kind of good, meaningful life out of his life, even with having a ghost,
right? Which
is way more close to real life than what you see in some movies.
Yeah.
And I loved that.
Yeah, he's not living it up as like this fucking, it's like this wonderful, joyous thing. No, but he's a real person.
He's a real person with purpose. And he's not like, oh, I'm so damaged. I'm so damaged all the time,
No, he's not like that at all. In fact, like you can sense when that starts seeping into his character,
right?
And you can tell it very much bothers him.
Yes, exactly.
So yeah, I thought it was great. I'm really glad to hear you liked it, because I don't think the book was like massively enjoyed by everyone.
Okay,
I think that it's good. I mean, is this as good as The Shining? No, but it's almost unfair because of how fucking different it is to even compare them.
I mean, well, yeah, The Shining is a masterpiece, but it's also so different. This is a very, very good modern horror suspense movie.
Yeah, can you imagine if he would have tried to do like Kubrick in this? It would have would have been awful.
Different characters required a different tone, I think is part of it.
Well, and what's funny though is you say that, but it's like
if you read
Jack
the book,
Torrance, the character, isn't necessarily supposed to be the, you know what I mean? But that's not what kind of movie that is.
And I actually think that this movie is strengthened by the fact of the original and how cold Jack Torrance is.
No, it works because of the tone. The characters are different. So it works. Like you're going nuts or seeing shit from a completely different perspective.
Right.
And clearly there was something very, very wrong with the individual in the first movie.
Yes.
And there is in this, but this one's a little bit stronger, I would say, as a character. You know, like
it's more three-dimensional.
Right. Yeah, I don't mean stronger as far as a stronger character per se. I mean the actual character is stronger. He's a stronger person.
He's like physically stronger.
No,
like
he's emotionally stronger.
I was being purposefully obtuse.
See, you caught me. I look like a dumbass. Oh, by the way, no, we'll save it for next week.
Okay,
we'll save it for next week.
But this is a great addition to this series. Hope that we don't get another. I think
if he wants to write another book,
I mean, he can.
Yeah,
doesn't mean they need to make it into a movie. But we hope that you have a spooky Halloween.
And we'll be discussing this one next weekend, possibly another movie or two.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely.
So,
all right. Have a great Halloween. Get that candy. Or don't if you're like an adult.